You grab the railing now without thinking. Last week, your foot missed a step. For a second, everything was in question. But here's what nobody tells you. That wasn't random. I watched a stronger man than me go down like that. What makes you sure it won't be you? Stay, and you'll know your weakest link. I'm Atlas Reed. Subscribe. You belong here. Point 1. 1 in 4 men over 60 will fall this year. Not eventually. Not someday. This year, statistically, for 1 out of every 4 men hearing this exact number. Most men hear that and picture someone else. An older man. A frailer man. Not the guy who still mows his own lawn, still carries the groceries in 2 trips instead of 3, still feels most days exactly like himself. I watched a man like that go down on wet tile, reaching for a towel rail that wasn't there. He'd been strong his whole life. Strength never came up that day. Balance did. This is what doesn't get checked at a normal physical. Not because it doesn't matter, but because nobody asks. You can get your blood pressure checked, your cholesterol checked, your prostate checked, and still walk out of that office with no idea whether you're 1 bad step from a hospital bed. Think of it like brake pads. They don't fail on the highway out of nowhere. They wear down quietly, unevenly for years. And the driver only finds out the exact moment they're gone, usually at the worst possible time to learn it. Nobody checks brake pads because the car still stops fine, right up until the day it doesn't. At 61, 3 years into rebuilding strength, I'd let slip in my 50s. I watched a stronger man than me lose his footing on a bathroom floor. The research on it says the systems that actually keep a man upright decline gradually in nearly every man over 60, whether he notices or not. So if strength isn't the whole story here, what actually is? Point 2. Here's the part that doesn't get said enough. This risk isn't evenly distributed. Men account for 81 to 89% of ladder fall injuries treated in emergency rooms. Not because men climb more ladders than women, because men are far less likely to ever join a structured program built to catch this before it becomes an emergency. There's a 19 to 29 point gap in mobility aid use between men and women at every age bracket studied. That's not men being tougher. That's men waiting longer to address a problem that's already visible until the visible problem becomes an ambulance ride. And here's the one that actually stopped me. Only about 2% of men with osteoporosis get diagnosed before a fracture. The bone loss doesn't announce itself. The fracture does. Picture 2 men in their 60s. Same age, same general health. One gets a 5-minute screening most people have never heard of. The other finds out his bones were thinning the same week he breaks a hip. That's not bad luck. That's a gap nobody warned him about. None of this gets caught by accident either. Balance and fall risk are rarely checked as part of a standard physical. Not because a doctor doesn't care. Because it was never built into the 15-minute visit in the first place. The pattern across all 3 is the same. The risk was never about being weak. It was about never being shown where to look. So the real question isn't whether any of this applies to you. It's whether you actually know which of the 3 systems keeping you upright is already the weakest link. Point 3. Balance doesn't fail all at once. It fails 1 system at a time, quietly. Vision, the inner ear, the muscles and joints that tell your brain where your foot actually is, until one ordinary afternoon asks for more than what's left. There's research behind every part of this, so nobody has to take it on faith. The vestibular system in your inner ear, the visual system, reading the floor in front of you, the proprioceptive system, the sense of where your own foot is without looking down. 3 separate systems, aging on 3 separate timelines, and almost nobody trains them as a set. That's exactly the 3-system balance retraining sequence that's still standing after 60. The complete independent system walks through. It's linked in the description. If you're watching this on a TV right now, there's a QR code on screen. Scan it, and it'll take you straight there. Because training 1 system and ignoring the other 2 is like reinforcing 1 leg of a 3-legged stool and wondering why it still wobbles. A man who only lifts weights has built 1 strong leg on that stool. The other 2 were never even part of the plan. And they're the 2 that actually decide whether he's still standing at the end of the story. Point 4. Here's what most men don't factor in. A first fall doesn't just cost you a first fall. It roughly doubles your risk of a second one. And the second one tends to arrive when you're least prepared for it, not most. Falls cost the U.S. medical system an estimated $50 billion a year in non-fatal injuries alone. But the number that actually stopped me wasn't the dollar figure. It was this. In one landmark study, 47% of older adults who fell and weren't even seriously injured still couldn't get back up without help, couldn't get up without pain, couldn't get up, period. In roughly 1 out of every 5 falls among adults over 65, that time on the floor stretches past an hour. And in study after study, most of them never use the alarm sitting right next to them. That's not a strength problem. That's not even entirely a balance problem. It's a gap most men never think to close until they're the one on the floor and it's too late to close it from there. So right where you're sitting, try this. Stand up, lift 1 foot off the ground, and time yourself on your phone. 10 seconds on one leg is the mark researchers associate with meaningfully lower fall risk. Wobbling before 5, reaching for something to hold on to before 8, that's not a verdict on you. That's information you didn't have 60 seconds ago. Now try the other leg. Most men find one side noticeably weaker than the other, and most men have never once checked. Point 5. So back to that 1 in 4 number. It was never a prediction about age. It's a description of what happens when 3 systems that were never trained together are left to decline on their own, quietly, for decades, until an ordinary Tuesday asks for more than what's left. The men who don't become that statistic aren't the luckiest ones. They're the ones who found out which system was weakest before the floor told them. Vision, inner ear, the sense of where your own foot is, trained as a set, on purpose, years before anyone forces the question. You don't have to be the man who finds out the hard way. You get to be the man who found out first and closed the gap while it was still just information, not yet an emergency. Not a man managing decline. A man who stayed standing on his own terms, still the one his family calls capable instead of careful. 1 in 4 men over 60 will fall this year. But that number was never about luck. It's about which men trained the systems that keep them upright and which men didn't find out until they were already on the floor. If you want to know exactly where you stand, literally, still standing after 60, the complete independent system walks you through all 3 systems in order, so you're not guessing which one to fix first. It's linked in the description below, or scan the QR code on your screen right now. Every year you wait is a year. Those 3 systems keep drifting further apart on their own. That's not urgency for its own sake. That's just how the math works. If this is the kind of training intelligence you want every week, subscribe. We put out videos weekly, and everyone is built for men serious about staying independent. I'm Atlas Reed. Keep doing the work.